Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John, and it's time to review the 5th album by Florence and the Machine. This one's titled Dance Fever, and it's their first record since High as Hope in 2018. I think Florence Welch was flirting a lot more with minimalism during that era, and even pieces of How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful. They're one of those bands that I tend to underrate, even to myself, because I genuinely do love them, but I don't always have them in the forefront of my head when I think, what are my favorite bands of all time? But none of their records up to this point had been anything that I would rate lower than a 4 out of 5, and they have a surprisingly high replay factor. But I've been interested to see how would the band evolve? How would Florence's writing evolve on Chapter 5? Many of the tracks for Dance Fever were penned even before the pandemic began, and there's definitely a notation in time where you see the album's themes start to change, and we open with King, and by the time we get to tracks like Girls Against God and Dream Evil Girl, we definitely see a different side and new chapters opening up and unfolding, and I can see why Florence calls this a fairy tale over 14 tracks. I was really surprised to see some of the producers on this LP, because in the past she's been known for working with people like Paul Epworth. This time we have Jack Antonoff, Kid Harpoon, known for working with Harry Styles, and Dave Bailey, the frontman of Glass Animals. So I am really captivated by the fact that it still sounds so Florence and the Machine, so big, so ambitious and throttling. I think it has more in common with Ceremonials from 2011 than any of the other records in their discography, and it's nice to see them kind of going back to this gargantuan sound, because Florence in particular seemed to miss performing so much that these over-dramatized elements, even things like feeling stuck and isolated indoors, turn into thematic, over-the-top tracks that really land a blow. The hype really started soaring after My Love and King came out as the first two singles. Both are definitely classic Florence and the Machine in many ways, but it also felt like a bold step forward, something very catchy, familiar, but definitely quenching a thirst that they had even been missing themselves for a little bit. In the context of the album, I really do like King as an opener, and in the first half, I will say this: I think the album struggles to find a solid pacing. It can feel like the bottom just falls out from under you in terms of the inertia and the forward momentum. It's not necessarily anything that kills my attention or my enjoyment of the record Dance Fever, but still, I thought it was something worth noting that the pacing, especially at the end of the tracks, it can just dissipate into nothing when it could have been a smoother transition. Shout out to my personal favorite transition on the entire record. We come from the incredible, towering Daffodil, which is probably one of my favorite Florence tracks to date. It's just so ambitious and melodramatic, a big swell. It's also pretty simple at the same time, especially in the chorus, but it's the delivery that sells it. We move from that perfectly into My Love, and then just the rise, the crescendo and tempo, it's a beautiful thing, and that track in particular, My Love, I could see it landing as one of the best of the year for me. There's a lingering, haunting feeling in the air, and you can definitely feel the tension, the mental prison that Florence herself is battling, and as she's isolated, wanting to break free, quite literally, as we see on the second track on the LP, we do see some familiar themes, and there's places where I'm wanting a little bit more because maybe it feels like, hey, I feel like we've maybe already heard this type of song from Florence and the Machine in the back catalog. It's not to say that these are bad or weak tracks. I guess I was just hoping for a little bit more innovation. Realistically, these are pretty small complaints in the grand scheme of the entire album experience. And after Back in Town, which is a more down-tempo, moody cut that I just don't really find myself gravitating towards because it doesn't necessarily serve a huge purpose like a cornerstone of the album, once we get to Girls Against God, I love the fact that the intensity is dialed up. There's a slow burn happening in a lot of these songs songs that really build up. Florence's vocals sound absolutely phenomenal. In fact, that paired back to back with Dreamgirl Evil are just incredible. Poignant progressive pop definitely encapsulates the entirety of this album, because there definitely is that Baroque instrumentation that Florence and the Machine are known for, but it ramps it up and down as the energy kind of swells back and forth. It feels like an internal battle coming to fruition, and I think one of the best places that you see that is on my personal favorite track from the entire LP, Cassandra. Everything comes together so effortlessly on that track, with the slick acoustic guitars and the droning build from the background instrumental that just really captures a lot of different spirits. It's all flying high, and there's an animalistic side to this record. There's chanting in places, there's cuts that will remind you of something like they did on Big God, and it all comes together on the album's final moment, which absolutely pulled the rug out from under me. I wasn't expecting something so emotional, but Mourning Elvis is exactly that. It's a toss-up because I know I called Cassandra my favorite on the LP, but this one is definitely up there, just chomping right at its heels. I love how descriptive the imagery is as she talks about the king, Elvis. And I also thought it was fascinating that she opened the album on a song called King, and they close with Mourning Elvis, and Elvis Presley's nickname is the King. All of your heartstrings get tugged on this cut, and something about the lyrics, how she opens this song, in particular the line, "I pressed my forehead to the floor and prayed for a trapdoor. I've been here many times before, but I've never made it to Graceland." That absolutely spoke to me. It gave me chills. It actually made me a little misty-eyed, and I just love this almost surfy guitar that's played on top of it all. At the end of the day, despite some inconsistencies in the tracklist flow and a few cheesy lyrics that felt a little bit out of pocket, I think this is another excellent album from Florence and the Machine. It's a 5 for 5 streak at this point. I own all 5 albums on vinyl now, and I feel like that doesn't happen very often, so I need to celebrate that. I'm giving this album a strong 4 out of 5. What did you guys think of Dance Fever by Florence and the Machine? Was it worth all of the time away, the long wait between records, or did you feel disappointed by it? Let me know in the comments, join the conversation, please hit the like button on this video, and subscribe for the love of music. I've reviewed all of Florence's albums, so if you want to see those, then you can check the card on screen, or you can check out another recent video here, and I'll be back soon for more on ARTV.